And the therapist is like, how did that make you feel? I'm just like,
You know,
what? What am I watching right now? But that's so funny. I like it was really enjoyable.
have you ever been to the Northeast?
I've been to Connecticut, but I've not been to Boston.
There's something to me so magical about Boston, having never been, and yet everyone I talk to has it's not that magical. But something about growing up with Good Will Hunting, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and I feel like watching The Instigators was just more proof that the Boston I want to exist is only in the movies. It's the Matt Damon, Casey Affleck, corrupt cops hanging out at a small house by a river, and then you're just in a brick-lined city full of scum. This is a movie.
I'm a Boston sports fan. I have family who lives out there and have
Oh.
been huge Red Sox fans my entire life. And so there's a lot of I can't believe I haven't been to Boston because I have family that lives there and like I could go visit them and I could stay with them and stuff. So like I can't believe it. But so the being able to include Fenway in an exposition shot and your character's wearing a Red Sox jacket and they're making references to the Boston Bruins and like the hockey and stuff. Like you can just tell that whether or not this is an accurate representation of what Boston is actually like is written by people who love Boston.
Yeah. And I want to clarify, it was filmed in Boston. I just think it was so Boston it felt disingenuous. I was like, it can't be, right?
Yeah.
Every LA movie's filmed in Atlanta. But for the record, this is Boston through and through.
Oh, that's good.
So it's directed by Doug Liman, known for his work on Edge of Tomorrow. He directed that Roadhouse movie with Jake Gyllenhaal that we were not fans of.
Oh, boy.
He was the director of Swingers, American Made, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the one with Brad Pitt, Angelina. So we know this guy. We are familiar with his game. Written by Chuck McLean and Casey Affleck. Now, I didn't know Casey Affleck wrote, but this is not his first rodeo. He wrote this one, a couple other kind of smaller movies, but this is definitely, I think, the biggest budget and biggest story. What had you heard about this movie before we sat down to watch it?
Literally nothing. I live in Utah, Tristan. I'm not in LA. I'm not in the scene.
No, I have to be honest with you though. Living in LA, the marketing cycle for every movie now is like 6 weeks to 6 months tops, but more like 6 weeks to 3 months, which is wild. Only when I saw billboards probably 2 months ago in LA did I even have any clue about this. And that's because I live down the street from Apple. Apple Movies is like in my neighborhood. So the Instigators, what is that?
Yeah.
Did you like the story, the plot itself?
Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty straightforward. I mean, it was not a straightforward heist movie, right? But it kind of played itself off like that. And I thought it was funny because both Matt Damon and Casey Affleck have been in one of the most well-known heist movies that there's ever been, Ocean's 11. And so, I thought the first act was pretty well done when they were just kind of like explaining the heist of like, we're going to do this, we're going to break in, and we're going to, it just kind of followed the similar beats that we're used to in heist movies. And then, of course, everything just goes off the rails. I think that maybe some of it, like, it was maybe trying to do some political commentary.
Maybe.
That maybe if I was more familiar with Boston subculture, it could have made more sense to me. Or like, I think some of the emotional beats, I think I missed, like on why why Matt Damon's character needed such a specific amount of money. Like, I feel like that should have been hit over and over again, why he needed that specific amount of money. And we should have known that as an audience, maybe a little bit earlier on than when we found it out, which was much further into the movie than I thought we should have. And that way we at least have something to like care about as we're watching this thing unfold. And then we're like, oh no, it's failing. And then we actually are going to feel bad about it rather than just being like, well, these two shitheads got themselves into a problem, into a real bucket.
The other writer of the movie, Chuck McLean, is from Boston, from the suburb of Quincy. He hasn't done much else, but this is Chuck's movie. And I think, in my mind, Casey helped a little bit. And you can tell because sometimes you're like, oh, Casey Affleck gets a little better quips than Matt Damon does here or there. But if you take it back to screenwriting 101 or just storytelling in the story circle, Chekhov's gun cannot be a side note 45 minutes in that then never goes off. And that was my first story problem, like you're saying, We had no reason to care about Matt Damon. He's kind of a loser. We have no reason to care about Casey Affleck. He really is a
Mhm.
loser. And then by the time these guys are roped in and they're having the big meeting with the boss before the heist, I don't care about any of these people. And why is Jack Harlow here? He's gonna
I
die.
know.
You just knew. I'm like, this is the Post Malone moment. White rapper has to get shot.
They should have put him in a red shirt.
There were a lot of spark notes in this movie. We
Mm.
see Ron Perlman. He's tall, he's lumbering as a mayor. You know he's got money stashed away or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we get that. We see his little squirrely guy with glasses. You know they're all dirty. Okay,
Mhm.
by the time the heist actually starts and something goes wrong, oh, now we're in for it. But at least for me, and maybe you feel differently, I would have loved bigger stakes and then to get really personal, where I feel like the personal moments were, oh yeah, we need this. Toss it in.
Yeah. Or just like really convenient plot actions of like, oh, these two guys really messed up their heist. And then they just walk into the room with the mayor and the chief of police and like all the, the big stake people. And
Yeah.
they're just going to walk out of there.
I
They're
was
just
like,
going to walk out of there.
this convention center needs to be condemned. I was like, the layout is all wrong, and the
Yeah.
security team needs to be put in jail because none of this makes sense.
Yeah. And then somehow they drive an armored car and the armored car doesn't have a tracker on it. Like, are you kidding me? I'm almost certain armored cars have at least like an Apple AirTag in them so that we
We,
know where they're at.
we put air
What?
tags on bicycles. Yeah, there's no way.
There's no way that's real. And then, uh, yeah. And then, like, okay, the one that was really egregious to me was the cops are pursuing them. It's the chase, right?
Mhm.
Which I honestly thought was it was fun
Yeah.
because there's kind of this really chaotic chase happening. And then on the inside of the car, they're super calm. They're just
Yeah.
so calm. Casey Affleck is making flirty quips with the therapist. Matt Damon is like, no, the chaos is around me. I'm actually totally fine. And I'm like, I believe that. I really believe that, which is a really fun kind of dynamic juxtaposition of energies in a chase scene. But then they go into this tunnel, and I guess this long truck crashes in such a way that it prevents the rest of the cops from chasing them through the tunnel. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? So they're not going to be saved by their own skill or ingenuity or even idiocy. They're just saved by the hand of God.
We just love Looney Tunes logic. Okay, that's the big problem here. Looney Tunes logic to me is rough when you have a grounded in reality story. And this is a heist, right? But it was supposed to be a heist, and this was where it got into the weeds. It was a heist of the money made from drinks and concessions at a mayor who's going to lose the race's political convention. Okay, already that's a lot. But then, second off, someone came the night before and you just weren't aware. Whatever, fine. But the writers of Roadrunner and Coyote laid out 9 rules that had to be true for every single one of their cartoons. I'm going to quickly go through the ones that matter. 1, Roadrunner cannot harm the coyote except by saying beep beep. Can you do a beep beep?
Me, 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 me.
Okay, beep beep. Number 2, no outside force can harm the coyote, only his own ineptitude. Wonderful. Number
Yeah,
3, the coyote could stop any time if he was not a fanatic. Okay. So
that's
far, so
solid. That
good.
is so good.
Number 4, no dialogue ever, only beep beep. Okay. Number 5, Roadrunner must stay on the road. Otherwise, logically, he would not be called the Road Runner. No notes. Number 6, all action must be confined to the natural environment of the two characters, which is the Southwest American desert. They never are in the city unless you go to the big old WB movies. Number 7, all materials, tools, weapons, mechanical convenience must be obtained from Acme Corporation. Great, no problems with branding. Number 8, whenever possible, make gravity the coyote's greatest enemy. Fun. And number 9, the coyote is always more humiliated than harmed by his failures. You have your Looney Tunes logic. These writers need to sit down and figure out their own logic for these stories.
Yes.
You just cannot have a massive tanker flip over just because. We've all seen this on the highway, and we are blown away that the thing from the movies has happened once in our lifetime. This cannot happen anytime the protagonist just drives by. This movie has a lot of moments where the writer didn't say, here's the rules of my logic. You can't give him that much plot help.
No, you can't. I did not realize that the Roadrunner and Coyote had such
Strict
rules. but they make so much sense when you're trying to like create structure around which to tell a story and a narrative, especially a serial story like that, right?
Yeah.
Because they're, in this story, their own ineptitude is often the thing that is like it is their biggest cross to bear. Like they're incompetent and it's always hurting them. And I wish that they weren't saved from their own incompetence by the hand of God. I want them to be saved from their own incompetence by their own incompetence, or like from the one thing that went right. So fun movie. I love the Boston accents. I love that it's in Boston. I'm a big fan of that. I'm even a fan of the way that they incorporated the therapist, and it was kind of slapsticky, where it's like there's chaos all around us. And yet the therapist is like in the middle of a hostage situation. How did that make you feel when this guy you didn't even know took a bullet for you, or like really helped you out in this hard situation in which you botched a heist? And the therapist is like, how did that make you feel? I'm just like, what am I watching right now? But that's so funny. I like, it was really enjoyable for me.
I don't want anyone listening to be turned off. It's a fun movie, and I will watch it again and see what I pick up this time because it is fun. It's just hand to God moments are rough.
It was written well. The logic of the movie suffered, I think.
True.
Like I think one instance, and like this is an example of what I might see as really good writing, would be, so they're gathering the people together to talk about the heist, and Matt Damon's character is introduced, and they're like, this guy was a Marine.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so this guy's a Marine, so he means business. And then we see him fail at a bunch of things, and we're just like, what? And then it's revealed later that he was an engineer for the Marines. He wasn't actually a Marine.
That was a good twist.
That's clever. That's a good reveal too, because then it's just like, why is this Marine? He doesn't even know how to handle a gun. Like, what's going on here? And then after the fact, it's like, oh, he was an engineer for the Marine. The boss guy did not understand what he was getting himself into. And I'm like, that's some good writing. That's pretty clever.
Yeah, and I absolutely love Michael Stuhlbarg and everything he does. He is a fantastic boss who's sick and tired of Jack Harlow as Scalvo. We have Ving Rhames, who is from the Mission Impossible series, playing Frank Toomey, who's kind of like just the muscle. And we love a little muscle hunt. The muscles hunting down the good guys who are in the midst of the troubles. Even for some of those moments that felt forced, it was good writing, and it was a personal man-to-man conversation of Casey Affleck and Matt Damon in a room. Let the guys act, and they did. And I have to say, well done for that.
Yeah, had some highs, had some lows, and definitely, if you're like, oh, what do I watch on a Saturday night? And, just need something that you can watch with half of your brain, this is it.
This reminds me a little of Logan Lucky, which I think is a great movie.
Wouldn't it be funny if this was actually a secret sequel to Good Will Hunting?
California. Then he joined the Marines. Then he came back.
Yeah. How do you like them apples?
How do you like them apples?
He should have said that at one point in the movie, and then all of us would have been like, what? This was a sequel to Good Will Hunting all along?
How meta can we get? How do you like them apples on Apple TV Plus? And it's turned towards the camera. That would have just been it. Would have been like, all right, we're done. Singularity time. Well, give it a watch if you haven't yet.
Cool. I like that.
Well, let's wrap it up there for today. We've got another interview coming soon. We've got more reviews, and we're getting ready to plan our next watch-along series. And when we're ready to start, we're going to go ahead and let everyone know what movies we're watching, when we're talking about them. So if you want to watch along with us, it'll be a fun way to spend the next month. Till then, watch good movies and TV.
Bye.